Hollywood just got hit with a shockwave, and it came from a pairing so powerful, so unexpected, that it's already rewriting headlines and rattling industry gates. Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce didn't just collaborate, they collided. And the aftershocks are already cracking the walls of the so-called untouchable elite. Multiple insider leaks confirm that the two megastars have locked hands, not for an award show moment, not for a charity gala, but for something much bigger, bolder, and dangerously political. It's being called the performance that could change everything, but behind closed doors, the reactions are anything but unanimous. Some are calling it revolutionary. Others are calling it reckless. And in the marble halls of Hollywood, power whispers are growing that certain executives and even a few major celebrities are quietly plotting to push back. Why? Because this wasn't just art. This was a declaration. A statement so loaded that even the location of their meeting has insiders sweating. And here's the kicker. The cameras caught more than anyone expected. The footage that's now in circulation. It could spark the most polarizing cultural moment of the decade. Stay here, because when you hear who's already against them, your jaw will hit the floor. To understand why this moment is shaking Hollywood to its core, you have to rewind months before the cameras started rolling back to a time when Kendrick, Lamar, and Beyonce were operating in completely different orbits. Kendrick had been in what the industry called his perceptive. Kendrick had been in what the industry called his. No interviews, no surprise drops, just cryptic social media posts and carefully staged public sightings. Whispers of a new album swirled, but nothing concrete. Beyonce, on the other hand, had been deep in her global tour, selling out stadiums, setting new records, and keeping her creative process locked behind an iron curtain. And yet, in a way no one saw coming, their paths began to cross. It started quietly. Kendrick was spotted at one of Beyonce's rehearsals in Los Angeles, not in the VIP section, but in the shadows near the soundboard, hood up, face hidden. Days later, Beyonce's longtime choreographer was seen leaving a recording studio known for hosting Kendrick's sessions. For weeks, it seemed like coincidence. Then a leak changed everything. A grainy photo hit the internet. Kendrick and Beyonce in the same room, surrounded by cameras, a massive LED backdrop glowing behind them with the single word revival in block letters. No context, no caption, just enough to ignite the internet into chaos. The fan theories went nuclear. Was this a political statement? A short film? Secret halftime show? The timing couldn't be ignored. Hollywood was already under fire for being out of touch, elitist, and resistant to cultural shifts. Pairing Kendrick's sharp, confrontational artistry with Beyonce's global influence was like dropping a match in a room soaked with gasoline. Industry insiders began whispering that this wasn't just a creative project. It was a calculated strike at the Hollywood establishment. One producer close to the situation claimed, "They're not here to entertain. They're here to expose." Another said, "This could be bigger than anything either of them has done alone." But with great ambition comes great resistance. Sources inside two major studios revealed that executives were already nervous. Words like uncontrollable and too risky started appearing in internal emails. An A-list actor reportedly walked out of a meeting after seeing an early concept video, muttering, "I'm not touching this." And still, the work continued in absolute secrecy. Sessions were held in unmarked warehouses. Every crew member signed NDAs so strict they were warned not to discuss the project, even with family. Phones were locked in secure cases. The soundtrack, if you can even call it that, was described as genreless, borderless, and dangerous. The real kicker? The duo had chosen to film their core performance at a location loaded with historical weight. A Hollywood landmark tied to both Golden Age glamour and decades-old controversy. Standing on that stage wasn't just symbolic. it was defiant. One set designer leaked a single detail. When people see the opening shot, they'll realize they're not just watching entertainment. They're watching a warning. By the time the first test audience screening happened under absolute secrecy, reactions were split down the middle. Half the room left in stunned silence. The other half gave a standing ovation so intense it drowned out the closing credits. But it was the people outside the screening who spoke loudest, the executives who didn't clap, the publicists who left before the Q&A, and the powerful Hollywood names now whispering about damage control. Because if this project reaches the public as intended, it won't just make headlines. It could pull back the curtain on the very system that's tried to control both Kendrick and Beyonce for years. And trust me when I tell you who's already moving against them. You'll understand why this performance might never make it to your screen without a fight. Asterisk, the first real crack in the secrecy didn't come from an official leak. It came from a mistake. A cameraman, hired for what he thought was a private music video shoot, uploaded a short behind-the-scenes clip to his private Instagram story. He probably assumed only his close friends would see it. He was wrong. Within 20 minutes, that clip had been screen recorded, posted, and dissected by thousands of people online. It was only 8 seconds long, but it was all the proof the world needed. Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce on the same stage, framed by a massive glowing arch with dancers in gold and black moving in perfect sync. The sound was muted, but you could see Kendrick delivering rapid-fire lines while Beyonce stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder, eyes locked on the crowd like she was holding a secret. The internet caught fire. Fans screamed that this was history in the making. But inside Hollywood's boardrooms, the reaction was far colder. Multiple high-profile executives began circulating an internal memo, a warning about potential backlash and uncontrolled messaging. One source claims the memo described the project as socially incendiary and politically charged in a way that could alienate key partners. In other words, they weren't worried about art, they were worried about money. And here's where the first twist drops. That leaked clip wasn't from the final performance. It was from a rehearsal, and according to an insider source close to the crew. The final version contained a scene so controversial that one major sponsor threatened to pull funding from an entire studio slate unless it was cut. The scene in question, Kendrick and Beyonce standing center stage, surrounded by actors dressed as Hollywood executives, all wearing masks made from mirrored glass. One by one, the masked figures approached and tried to hand them contracts, only for Kendrick to rip each one in half as Beyonce sang a haunting refrain, "No paper can own my name." The symbolism wasn't subtle, and it wasn't meant to be. But for certain industry power players, it was crossing a line. Within days of that rehearsal leak, rumors began swirling that a coordinated effort was underway to suppress the project. Meetings were canceled, distribution deals were reconsidered. Journalists were quietly advised to hold off on premature coverage. Meanwhile, the fan reaction only grew louder. Twitter threads turned the masked executive scene into a rallying cry, with people declaring it the moment Hollywood needed. Artists from outside the music industry began voicing support. An Oscar-winning actress tweeted, "They can try to bury it, but they're planting a forest." A well-known director posted, "This isn't rebellion. This is truth." But in the shadows, resistance was building. An anonymous tipster sent an audio file to a major entertainment blog, claiming it was recorded in a private studio meeting between Kendrick, Beyonce, and the project's producers. In the clip, a producer's voice can be heard saying, "If we don't cut that scene, they will bury this whole thing. They will make sure no one sees it." Kendrick responds calmly but firmly, "Then we'll make it so they can't stop it. Can't stop it." That one sentence was all it took. Fans began theorizing that the duo had a backup plan, a way to bypass the traditional Hollywood system entirely. Some guessed a direct-to-streaming drop. Others whispered about a live global broadcast, unannounced, impossible to pull before it aired. And just as the speculation reached a fever pitch, a second, more dangerous leak hit the internet. A blurry still image from the final cut. It showed Beyonce holding a gold key in one hand and a burning script in the other, while Kendrick stood beside her, pointing directly at the camera. The caption at the bottom of the frame: "The real premiere is not here." Nobody knew what it meant, but the timing was no accident. Within hours, several major entertainment outlets reported that undisclosed parties were lobbying to delay the project indefinitely. But behind the scenes, insiders swore that the opposite was happening. Kendrick and Beyonce were accelerating the twist. That burning script in the leaked still. It wasn't a prop. According to a set designer, it was an actual draft of a Hollywood contract pulled from the archives with real names still visible in the margins. If that's true, the message wasn't just art. It was a direct shot at specific people, the kind of shot that demands an answer. And according to my sources, that answer was coming, but not from who anyone expected. The burning script image had barely cooled on social media before the next ripple tore through Hollywood. This time, it wasn't a fan theory or an anonymous leak. It was a deliberate move, and it came from inside the building 3 days after the still surfaced. A whistleblower contacted an independent investigative journalist known for breaking stories the mainstream avoids. In a heavily encrypted call, the source claimed to have production notes from the Kendrick Beyonce project, including a breakdown of the now famous masked executive. Seen buried in those notes was a casting description, not generic placeholders, but eerily specific details about each masked figure: body type, posture, mannerisms, even signature accessories. Fans didn't need long to connect the dots. One was described as tall, broad-shouldered, cufflinks with a family crest, instantly linked to a current studio head notorious for controlling artist contracts. Another was short frame, silver watch on right wrist, slow, deliberate. Walk matching the profile of a media mogul whose empire spans both film and music. But the most jaw-dropping clue. One description read, "Graceful stance, diamond ankle bracelet, voice modulation for anonymity." Insiders whispered this could only point to a powerful actress-turned-producer still active in major franchises today, someone who has built her career on playing the Hollywood game flawlessly. If true, it meant Kendrick and Beyonce weren't just targeting faceless executives. They were calling out current power players by silhouette. The reaction was instant and explosive. Social media lit up with side-by-side comparisons, slowed rehearsal footage, and freeze frames of the masked actors in motion. Theories flooded in. That's definitely him. I can't believe they went after her. These people really are who we think they are. No wonder Hollywood wants this buried. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, the pressure campaign intensified. Emails leaked from a major talent agency showed top agents advising clients to distance themselves from the project until legal concerns are resolved. Another memo from a streaming platform, one that had been in talks to acquire distribution. Rights stated bluntly, the risk outweighs the reward. But here's where the escalation turned into an outright declaration. Beyonce and Kendrick leaned in. The duo broke their silence with a joint move. A black and white teaser posted simultaneously on their social accounts. The video showed nothing but a table, 2 chairs, and the gold key from the leaked still. A hand Beyonce's placed the key on the table. A second hand Kendrick's placed a folded chessboard beside it. The screen faded to black with the words, "We're unlocking it ourselves." No date, no platform, no explanation. Within hours, a new theory emerged that they planned to bypass traditional Hollywood entirely and premiere the project at a live event, streamed globally on their own terms. One insider claimed they'd already secured a venue outside Los Angeles, capable of hosting thousands, with satellite feeds ready to beam the performance worldwide. Another suggested they were negotiating directly with an international network. To air it uncensored, the industry panic was palpable. PR teams scrambled to craft counter-narratives, claiming the project was still in early talks or not final. But the fans weren't buying it, not after another leak landed. Just 24 hours later. This one came from an anonymous crew member who sent an audio clip to a fan account. You can hear Beyonce's voice.com, but loaded. If they won't open the door, we'll build another entrance. Kendrick's reply is almost a whisper, and it'll be bigger than the house they're guarding. If there was any doubt about their intentions, it was gone. They weren't negotiating for permission. They were preparing for a takeover. As momentum built, an unexpected ally stepped into the fray. A legendary filmmaker known for their award-winning exposes on systemic corruption publicly. Praised the project in a rare statement. Art is only dangerous when it tells the truth. This sounds like danger. The comment was shared over 2 million times, forcing even the most cautious outlets to cover the story. But the most shocking moment of this escalation came during a live red carpet interview for an unrelated blockbuster premiere. A reporter asked one of the suspected masked figures if they had any comment on the Kendrick Beyonce rumors. The executive laughed, but it wasn't a confident laugh. It was tight, forced, the kind that hides panic. His only response? Before walking away, they wouldn't dare. That clip went viral instantly because the truth was clear. They already had dared. And according to whispers from both camps, the performance didn't just name names in coded form. It laid out specific actions, contracts, and deals tied to those same power players. The gloves were officially off. The next move. Both sides were preparing for it, but only one side was ready to go all in, no matter the consequences. By the time the masked executive, casting notes, and Beyonce Kendrick's Unlocking It Ourselves teaser hit the public, Hollywood wasn't just watching, it was splitting apart in real time. The first signs came from social media. Within hours, timelines were flooded with dueling montages. On one side, artists, actors, and directors reposting the teaser with captions like "It's time" and "Kick the doors down." On the other, silence. A silence that, in this climate, was as loud as taking a stance. Fan movements mobilized. Instantly, supporters began tagging their posts with symbolic emojis, keys, chess pieces, flames, turning comment sections into virtual battlegrounds. Fan edits mashed together Kendrick's most defiant verses with Beyoncé's most unflinching performances, painting them as cultural warriors storming the gates. But the pushback was equally intense. Industry insiders loyal to the accused power players began calling the project misguided, self-serving, and divisive. A high-profile entertainment lawyer went on a talk show and claimed the film distorts the truth for dramatic effect. The clip of that interview went viral for all the wrong reasons. Fans flooded the comments with side-by-side receipts of the lawyer representing some of the very names rumored to be behind those masks. Streaming platforms started taking sides without saying so directly. One major service updated its homepage banner to feature a massive image of Kendrick and Beyonce mid-performance, with the caption, "Some voices can't be silenced." Another platform quietly removed all promotional content tied to both artists from its carousel, prompting outrage and a trending boycott. #against them. The split extended beyond digital spaces. At a major film festival, attendees reported seeing stars openly avoiding each other on red carpets. A rising actress asked point-blank about the project, smiled nervously, and said, "No comment, I like my career." A Grammy-winning producer, on the other hand, told a live audience, "If they pull this off, the rules change forever." Fans began connecting dots no one expected. They noticed that a few of the rumored masked figures had suddenly canceled public appearances, citing scheduling conflicts. Others appeared in interviews with carefully rehearsed statements about focusing on the art, not the noise. It didn't matter, the noise was the art now. Meanwhile, street-level support was turning into a cultural movement. In New York, murals of Beyonce and Kendrick appeared overnight, depicting them breaking chains in front of a burning Hollywood sign. In Los Angeles, fans projected the gold key symbol onto the side of a major studio building. Videos of the stunt went viral, drawing both praise and condemnation. Celebrities began to openly pick sides. A pop superstar posted a selfie wearing a hoodie with the gold key on it, captioned, "Doors are opening." A veteran actor, however, tweeted, "Art should unite, not divide. This isn't the way." That comment sparked a 48-hour flame war between fan bases, with some digging up old interviews to accuse the actor of hypocrisy. Talk shows and podcasts treated it like a political election. Panels were stacked with Team Kendrick and Bey advocates facing off against Hollywood traditionalists. Ratings spiked. So did tensions. One heated exchange between a cultural critic and a studio executive ended with the execs storming off set, muttering, "They're going to regret this, to regret this." Even brands got dragged in. A luxury fashion house rumored to be sponsoring the live event saw its stock trend upward after a subtle Instagram post featuring the tilted chessboard from the teaser. Meanwhile, another brand faced backlash when fans dug up evidence it had cut ties with an artist who voiced support for the project. The division became so visible that it stopped being a Hollywood issue and turned into a full-blown cultural war. Late-night hosts cracked jokes about it, but the undertone was serious. This was the first time in decades that two artists had managed to bypass the industry's control mechanisms and still generate global momentum. But while fans celebrated the movement, others warned that this much visibility could trigger a counterstrike. Industry insiders began whispering that legal action was being considered to stop the project's release. Some claimed certain executives were pushing for a defamation suit before the live event could even take place. The mood shifted again when a single grainy photo hit Twitter: Kendrick and Beyonce on a rooftop at sunset, surrounded by what appeared to be news cameras. No context, no explanation. But it was enough to send the internet spiraling with one question: was this the final rehearsal before going live, or something entirely different? If it was the latter, it meant they weren't just fighting back, they were about to raise the stakes to a level Hollywood couldn't ignore. The rooftop photo should have been just another teaser. Instead, it turned out to be the fuse. Within hours of it going viral, an unmarked envelope arrived at the office of an independent culture blog known for publishing what mainstream outlets won't touch. Inside was a small flash drive with a handwritten label for the ones who need to know. The file on it was only 35 seconds long, but it detonated everything. It opened with a handheld shot, shaky, like someone was hiding the camera under a jacket. You see Kendrick, Beyonce, and a small crew gathered around a table. In the center, a map of Los Angeles, marked with red pins and lines connecting multiple locations, studios, theaters, and at least two major news outlets. Kendrick is pointing to one pin, saying, "This is where it starts. Once it's live, there's no stopping it." Beyonce nods, adding, "And by the time they realize, it'll already be everywhere." Then the camera shifts slightly, catching something no one expected. A third voice, calm, familiar. Someone who isn't supposed to be anywhere near this project. They say, "I've got my people on the inside." When the lights go out, we move. The voice is instantly recognizable to anyone who's been following the drama. One of the rumored masked figures, except they're helping. This wasn't just a list of performance locations. It was a blueprint for a coordinated media takeover, a simultaneous broadcast from multiple points across the city. If real, it meant the live event wasn't confined to a single stage. It would hijack feeds, screens, and headlines across Los Angeles and possibly beyond. The clip ended abruptly, cutting to black, with only one phrase appearing on the screen. "The door is already open." The reactions were immediate, and chaotic supporters hailed it as genius, a strategic masterstroke that would ensure the project couldn't be buried. Critics called it reckless, claiming it bordered on sabotage. And Hollywood. It panicked. Executives who had been publicly dismissing the project as overblown hype were suddenly holding emergency calls behind closed doors. The most explosive part wasn't the takeover plan itself. It was the presence of that unexpected ally. If the Voice was who everyone believed it to be, then one of Hollywood's most entrenched power brokers had quietly switched sides. Ready to undermine their own peers from within? It reframed the entire war. Was this person a true believer in Kendrick and Beyonce's vision, or simply betting on the winning side? Fans pored over every syllable, comparing vocal patterns, background noises, even the faint echo in the recording. 2 past interviews. Some swore they had 100% confirmation. Others warned it could be a deepfake planted to fracture the movement from the inside. But the clock was already ticking. Later that night, a cryptic countdown appeared on Kendrick and Beyonce's official websites. No logos, no music, just a digital timer set to zero out in 7 days. The font matched the one on the leaked rooftop map. Hollywood now faced an impossible choice: strike first with legal or corporate pressure, risking the appearance of silencing art, or wait and risk being blindsided by a cultural moment too big to contain. And then, just when it seemed the tension couldn't stretch any further, one final blow landed: a push notification from an anonymous app sent to tens of thousands of phones. When the lights go out, look up. What does it mean? Will the takeover unfold exactly as planned? Or is there an even deeper twist hidden in those red pins? The answer will come when the countdown hits 0. But by then, it might be too late for anyone to stop it. You've just heard the leaks, seen the images, and now the countdown is ticking in real time. In 7 days, Kendrick Lamar and Beyonce could deliver the most unfiltered, uncontainable performance Hollywood has ever faced, or the industry could move first to shut it down. Either way, the stakes have never been higher. But here's the question you need to answer: is this a bold act of artistic freedom, or a dangerous gamble that could burn every bridge in its path? Do you believe the leaked takeover plan is real, or is it a calculated mind game designed to keep both fans and enemies guessing until the very last second? And what about that voice? One of the so-called masked figures has flipped sides. What does that mean for the future of Hollywood's inner circle? Are we about to see a new power structure form in front of our eyes? One led by artists, not executives? I want to hear your theories. Drop your take in the comments. Who's helping them? What's going to happen when the countdown hits 0? And if the lights really do go out, what exactly should we be looking up at? One thing's certain: whatever's coming won't just be a performance, there'll be a message. And whether you're ready or not, you're going to remember where you were when it happened. So subscribe right now, turn on your notifications, and keep your eyes locked here. Because the moment this story breaks wide open, you'll want to be the first to witness it, and trust me, we are just getting started.